Welcome to the Beyond the Ears podcast, a podcast about all things Disney. Drop your socks and grab your crocs, because today we've got a special episode. I am your host, Josh, and as always, I am joined with my co-host, Ashley.
I love Iron Man. And today we are talking about Iron Man 1 and Iron Man 2. So if you're new here, we're doing a Marvel rewatch, and we're going in chronological order.
Mm-hmm.
Correct?
Correct.
Josh is the Marvel expert in our household. I love the films and I follow the films, but he is knows more about the comics and he listens to more podcasts and stuff. But today we're doing Iron Man.
Iron Man 1 and 2.
1 and 2.
Yep. So, do you want to just jump right into
Yeah.
to the podcast?
Sometimes I hate when people just keep talking and talking and talking, and then they finally get to the topic 10 minutes later.
Mm-hmm.
So we're jumping right in.
Okay.
Iron Man 1.
Iron Man 1.
Love it. So good.
Yeah. It's a great movie. And a great way to, I think, step into the MCU. Instead of, if you have someone that's never watched the MCU before,
Mm-hmm.
you're like, you should probably watch Iron Man 1 first, because that really gets you in the mood.
Yeah, and it's not super action packed heavy. It's not super chaotic. It just is I think that's part of the reason why I love the Iron Man movies, is because they're just really well balanced.
Okay.
And it's not always just go, 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 crazy, 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 fight, fight, fight scene. It's just balanced well.
Yeah. No, I think my biggest complaint with Iron Man 1 and 2 is the villain is kind of the same villain.
Yeah.
But different.
Yeah.
So and the first phase 1 of the MCU kind of suffered with that anyway. Super Soldier against Super Soldier, Iron Man versus Iron Man tech.
Yeah.
Thor, fights another god, it's kind of the same.
Yeah, but it's we have to have some sort of natural progression of what exists in the universe.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's obviously happening in the MCUs. Now we've got at the end of Endgame,
Mm-hmm.
and time travel is a thing. And we have aliens, and now we have all of these different things that have been introduced. So
no, I understand what you're saying. It's just those were the only hang-ups for those movies, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Or for the second one, at least. For the first one, I'm fine with it because it makes the most sense.
Right.
But for the second one, we'll get into it in a little bit, but let's talk about Iron Man 1.
Iron Man 1 and Iron Man 2, spoiler alert, are some of my favorite MCU films.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're both in my top 10.
I know number 2 is...
Number 2 was number 1 of my top MCU films. But as we're doing this rewatch, our list is changing as we also get new films come out.
Mm-hmm.
So I think once we finish our rewatch, we'll probably reorganize our list. But both of the first Iron Man movies are pretty high ranking for me.
Yeah.
I think the cast, it's kind of hard to separate the films because it literally went Iron Man 1, Iron Man 2.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's why I wanted to do them together.
Yeah.
Because they just flow so well together.
So the cast I love. Obviously, Robert Downey Jr. was the absolute perfect casting choice for Tony Stark, Iron Man.
But not the first casting choice.
Tell me about that. Because that's news to me.
Oh, they already had some other guy. I can't remember what his name was. But he was in final talks, and Jon Favreau was we really should look at Robert Downey Jr. a little bit more. And Robert Downey Jr. did an on-screen test kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And they liked him a lot better.
Good.
But
they made the right call.
It was almost not Robert Downey Jr. I can't remember, something Clive or something like that.
Clive Owen?
I don't know.
I don't even know who that is, but I think that's someone's name.
Anyway, Kevin Feige actually just recently revealed that.
Oh.
Because it was they just did the 15-year anniversary for Iron Man 1, which is crazy.
Mm-hmm. But I love the cast. I think all of them are so great. Jon Favreau, I love him in everything he does.
Mm-hmm.
He just comic relief. Love him as Happy. Just
Oh yeah, him as Happy is like one of the glues that I like through the MCU because you always kind of see him throughout the MCU.
Yep. And then we have Pepper Potts.
Mm-hmm. Gwyneth Paltrow.
Good casting choice. I don't necessarily like love her in anything else or like love her as a actress usually, but I think she fit this role really well.
Yeah, I agree.
There's been some like weird things come to light with like her, just like in general, like
her health and wellness
and social media. It's weird, and I'm not like a huge fan. I don't dislike her in any way, but I think she was the right cast for this role.
Yeah, her as Pepper is really good.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Rhodey.
Oh yeah.
Do you like Terrence Howard or do you like
Don Cheadle?
Don Cheadle.
I really like both of them.
Okay.
And obviously it's unfortunate anytime when they have to do a recast after a film has been released. That sucks. I could have seen either one of them being a great Rhodey.
Yeah.
Obviously we have Don Cheadle now, and I love him. He's great. I think he does a fantastic job.
Yeah.
But either or, I mean, I like them both. I think they both did a good job.
I agree. I think Terrence Howard at the time was a little too full of himself after the first Iron Man. But for the most part, I like Don Cheadle a lot better.
Yeah. I mean, he's what we have, and we've seen him a lot more, but I think if that didn't happen, I think Terrence Howard would have been great.
I think Don Cheadle's comedic timing is a lot better.
Yeah.
He's just a little bit more fun. But also, I feel like his serious moments are like way more serious.
Mm-hmm.
Where Terrence Howard's was like a little bit more serious. I don't know.
Yeah.
I like Don Cheadle though.
Yeah, I know you do. He's cool.
Yeah.
So what else do you like about the first Iron Man?
Oh man, I just love how we get an awesome origin story. I love it. It shows him like in the cave and like what he's capable of. And like, look at this. I'm gonna make this whole Iron Man suit out of spare parts.
Yeah, I love Jeff Bridges' line when he's trying to have his team rebuild a suit, and he's like yelling at them. He's like, Tony Stark built this suit in a cave with a bunch of scraps.
Yeah.
I love that. Jeff Bridges again. I mean, all the casting.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. I'm a big fan of Jeff Bridges.
No, I am too.
I've seen some of his older movies, and
the funny thing with the whole Jeff Bridges is practically this whole movie was like ad lib.
Yeah.
And Jeff Bridges is someone who studies a script like very intently for a role.
Yeah.
And there was no script. And if you go back and watch, there's a couple not deleted scenes, but like behind the scenes where they're going through the stuff, and you can just tell.
I felt bad for him watching those because you could tell he was like kind of uncomfortable
because they're just going off.
Well, because if you're the type of person that likes to prepare for whether you're an actor and you're preparing for a role, or maybe you're a student preparing your speech, like for speech class, it's just like, if you're the type of person who likes to be really prepared, I would imagine it's really hard to go into something like that and just be like, oh, we're just gonna figure it out as we go. Some people are really great at that, but other people are not. So
yeah, see, let's just go with it.
I think it turned out great for them.
No, I agree.
But I kind of, when we watched that clip of them kind of like improvising a script and like kind of rehearsing a little bit, you could tell Jeff Bridges was just like a little
just
unsure.
Trying to take it all in.
Yeah. I felt bad.
When we watched that, you were like, I feel so bad for him. I'm like, well, I mean, this is what we get. This was the first MCU movie, and it was like they were just flying by the seat of their pants.
They're lucky that it turned out so good.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of movies that are like ad lib and they don't hold up.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this was a movie that was like, it held up.
I feel like it has really good pacing too. I mean, everything just worked out perfectly to me. Like, it's just such a great film. All of the casting choices, the comedic timing, the pacing of the film, the storyline, just so awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Just so good.
And we get like a lot of, at the end of the MCU, we see a lot of things that are like, oh man, like reminisce. Because you don't know it at the time, like what's going to happen in the future to Iron Man.
Mm-hmm.
But going back and rewatching it, you're like, oh man, there's so many things that like you don't notice at the time. But when you go back and rewatch it, you're like, ah.
Yeah.
Like the proof that Tony Stark has a heart. Like that's what is on the pond when he dies at Endgame, and just little Easter eggs like that we get in the beginning of the MCU and like 10, 15 years later make reference to. But what would be like your favorite scene for Iron Man 1?
Let's see. Iron Man 1. I okay, it's hard to pick one scene. I think one of my favorite scenes is when he is in the cave and then he like basically breaks out of the cave and he like burns the whole village.
Yeah.
That's
the depot.
Yeah, with all the guns and stuff. And then he flies off. I think that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Really like that. And then the fight scene at the end is good, but it's not like one of the scenes that I'm constantly remember in the MCU.
Yeah, that's the ending fight scene is I think the weakest part of the film.
Yeah, it's not great, but
when him and Tony start fighting, I think it's like the dialogue's good, but the fight is just like that whole end fight scene.
Yeah, I also like I like the part where Tony is going back to like blow up, like he's built his Iron Man suit, and he's going back to like blow up all of those. No, wait, he's going to like shoot all of those people like who are holding the families and stuff hostage.
He blows up the depots.
And stuff. When he's coming back from that, and then they're like, "What is this aircraft?"
Oh, and the military.
Yeah. And then Rhodey calls him, and he's like, "I'm driving with the top down," and it's just he's just like, "Wait, I thought you just went for a run," and then he's like, "I'm getting ready to go for a run," and just like their banter back and forth was hilarious to me. It's such a good moment. Yeah. And then that just whole scene was fun, especially like after the scene when
he's like, it's me, I'm in the suit. Yeah.
No, it is me. Yeah. That's one of my favorites. I do like pretty much any scene with Pepper in this movie. Just their chemistry I think is really great. Yeah. Throughout the entirety of the MCU, but especially in like the first two films with them together, I think their chemistry is really good. So any scene with her, like the scene where she's going to get the thumb drive, download the stuff off of Jeff Bridges' laptop. I like that scene. Yeah.
So mine are very similar, but at the same time different than what you've got for your favorite scenes. I mean, I do like those scenes. I think I like the scene where he's just talking to Jensen in the beginning, like where they're up to where they're building the suit, and he like breaks out. Like that whole first scene, or like first action sequence is like really good. But I also really like whenever he's back at the house after him coming back, and he starts working on the suit itself. Like obviously we get introduced to Jarvis. Yeah. And Jarvis is like so fun because he's like is bantering with Tony like the whole time.
Yeah, and of course the scene where he first tests out like the suit and like flying
when it's like all silver.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's like kill power, and it like falls all the way through. Yeah.
I mean, there's so many good moments. The whole movie is good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like it's an easy watch.
Mm-hmm.
You're never like overly stressed out, which for me is, again, it's really rewatchable because I'm never like super stressed out about it. I'm not going to cry, which is also a good thing. I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to be stressed out. It's got good pacing, good comedy, good chemistry between the actors. So it's solid.
Yeah, it's man, I just totally forgot what I was gonna say because I was thinking of something else, and then you said it didn't make me cry, and I just thought of you watching Rise of Skywalker, and you were like teared up so many times because you're like, there's so many oh my god moments in this movie.
Crazy. Well, that movie is an insane amount of like back and forth and nostalgia, and it's a little chaotic and you're all over the place with your emotions. But sorry.
No, it's whenever you said that though, that's what I thought of because I was like, she's just crying earlier to watching the movie. Dang it, I cannot remember what I was gonna say.
I interrupted you. You were talking about your favorite scenes in the movie.
Oh, okay. So what I was building up to was, I remember I was like in 7th or 8th grade because that's when I would have saw the movie, or actually I think it was like, yeah, summer of my 7th grade year going into my 8th grade year, I think is
something
what it was.
like that, yeah.
And I remember the trailer, and it's a scene where he gets shot down with the tank, and he like lands in the hole, and you like see his arms, like, and you hear like the, and he like pulls himself up, and he dodges the missile, and he has his arm cannon, and he has this little bitty
yes,
and then like a super blow up moment.
That's a good.
That's
like well, the people are like holding these families hostage, and he puts his arm up.
Yeah.
And it's so cool because it literally targets just the bad guys and shoots just the bad guys.
Yeah, out of his shoulder.
Yeah.
Out of his top of his shoulders.
Oh, it's so cool.
Yeah, because he like puts his arm up with his hand.
Right.
And then it goes like, and he puts his arm down, and it like fires. Yeah, such a good scene.
Yeah. So many good scenes.
I love that they created that whole AI where like the interface inside of his helmet, so you can actually see like what he's looking at.
Yeah.
Or like when he's talking, you can see him.
And something else I love about the Iron Man movies is the soundtracks. Well, I think Marvel in general, soundtracks awesome, but I love how Iron Mans are always like classic, like AC/DC stuff.
Yeah.
Just love it.
Yeah.
I actually listen to it pretty often, the soundtrack.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's fun. Man, this movie is just so, like, it holds up so good. It's 15 years old, and like you still watch it and enjoy it. I feel like there's other movies in the MCU that you'll rewatch and you don't enjoy it as much. Like the CG stands up pretty well compared to what we have now, and like the film itself is just like a really solid film, like a very solid film all around. So
super good.
Yeah, that's all I'm going to say about Iron Man 1. I just love the film, and I thought, going back to that time, you didn't think like, oh, what's going to happen in 10 years with all these movies, but now it's like, that was the perfect way to start the MCU.
Yeah. I don't really remember. Obviously it's been a long time since the movie came out. I don't really remember the first time I saw it per se, and like what I thought, because I was so young.
Yeah, I don't know.
I remember my dad loved it, and we got him like a special edition for Christmas that year, I think, with like the Iron Man face, because back then we bought DVDs.
Yeah.
So we bought him a special edition DVD with like the Iron Man mask on it for Christmas, which he's probably like, well, this is lame, but he loved the movie.
So I specifically remember it because we didn't go to the movies like all that often.
Yeah.
And like even Dad was excited to go see this. And Dad, like if you know my dad, like he's not a big movie guy.
Yeah, I would have never thought that.
But I was kind of not a sis when it comes to movies, but I hated scary movies because I'm a deer hunter and like I'm out in the woods a lot, and like as a kid, like when it gets dark, it's like, oh yep, I'm done. So even at like 13 or 14, whenever I saw this, I was like really like on edge, and I remember like I think that's why I remember it so well, because I was like shaking when the movie first started, and I think it was because I was excited,
Yeah,
and like nervous at the same time. And I remember Mom was like, just relax, and Dad was like, just relax, it's just a movie. And I'm like, oh yeah. So just seeing the movie though in the theater is just like one of those things that I do remember from my childhood.
Yeah,
because it was like a big event for us to go out and see it. So
yeah.
I don't know if you saw it. Did you see it in theaters, I'm assuming?
I don't remember.
Oh. You just remember your dad liking it.
Yeah. I mean, it's been that was like half my life ago. More than half my life ago. So yeah. I don't remember. But over time, it has grown to be one of my favorites.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that ends our discussion with Iron Man 1. Now, Ashley's favorite movie in the whole world.
I know. Well, okay, no. It would be very hard to pick like just one favorite movie of all time in general. But Iron Man 2 is one of my favorites, yes. And I know I feel like I try to defend it every time. When any time that we talk about it in a podcast, I like try to defend it and like justify it. Mm-hmm. Because it is one that I rewatch more often than some of the others. Because
it's a more of an easy watch than Iron Man 1. Because it's so lighthearted. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's just one of those movies that you can just watch over and over and over again. Mm-hmm. And I never get sick of it because it's got all of the things that Iron Man 1 had. Same cast. Mm-hmm. With, of course, Mickey Rourke as Whiplash, which I think he was a good casting choice.
Yeah.
I thought that was cool. Good chemistry with the cast. We have a new roadie, which we kind of briefly touched on, which works. I liked the first scene with Rhodey when he walked into the courtroom, and the line he had was funny to me. He's like, It's me, get over it, let's move on.
Yeah.
I'm here. I thought, I'm here, let's move on. I thought that was funny. But again, it's great pacing, good humor, good chemistry between the characters.
Yeah. No,
overall really liked it.
I love this movie too, and it used to be lower in my ranks until you started making me watch it more. Like, let's watch Iron Man 2. I'm like, fuck, we just watched Iron Man 2.
I love Iron Man 2.
So going back and rewatching it, 100 times with you,
mm-hmm.
has made me like the movie a lot more because it is a lot of fun. There are some scenes again, this movie suffers with like the final battle scene being a little bit like lackluster compared to like the whole build up to this to this ending.
Yeah.
It's another a bad guy in an Iron Man suit with whiplash things.
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about this briefly for the Iron Man 1 part, but this movie doesn't stress me out. I don't get emotional. I don't get stressed out, which is nice. But like when we just watched Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, mm-hmm. It's just the Guardians. It's not like all of the Avengers together. There was definitely a couple points in the movie where I was like, how are they going to defeat this guy? Mm. Like, it doesn't seem possible that they're going to be able to defeat this person.
Yeah.
You never get that with an Iron Man villain. In the movies that we've gotten with mm-hmm. just Iron Man, it's like there was never a doubt that he was going to be able to defeat or wasn't going to be able to defeat Whiplash.
Yeah.
I was never worried about that.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't really build that up a lot.
Mm-hmm. They kind of do in the beginning, like when he's like, "Oh yeah, palladium in the chest. It's a
painful way to die.
Painful way to die."
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, I like the Whiplash as a character. and I liked him as a villain.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't ever like, oh my God, Iron Man's never going to survive this.
Yeah.
Which isn't a bad thing. I mean, that's part of the reason why I rewatch it, because I don't get stressed out. With Guardians 3, it's like, holy crap.
Yeah.
I'm so stressed out the whole time.
Yeah. No, I get it. I like Sam Rockwell in this movie as Justin Hammer.
Oh, yeah.
I think
he's funny.
And that's another person that was supposed to potentially be to play Iron Man. So in another universe out there, Sam Rockwell is Iron Man,
Mm-hmm.
which would be so weird.
Yeah.
Seeing him as Justin Hammer and trying to think of him as Iron Man is really hard for me to like wrap my brain around. But I get where they're going because his comedic timing is pretty funny in this movie, and I like that he teams up with Whiplash, and like he practically recruits him.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, build me more suits like Iron Man, but better. So, and Justin Hammer puts his whole spin on them and everything.
Yeah.
And but I just think Sam Rockwell's really funny throughout the movie, especially whenever at the end of the movie when he's like, tell the presses they're about to run out of ink in his showcase, and those people come up to grab the thing. He's like, get that out of here.
Yeah.
Because he's just like, he thinks he's so cool, but
Yeah.
he's such a tool.
Yeah. He thought he was making a joke, and like nobody thought it was funny.
Yeah. Like, but like 3 people.
Yeah. Another thing, we get Natasha Romanoff.
Yeah, and more. Well, we
Nick
got
Fury,
Coulson in the first one,
Mm-hmm.
which, by the way, something I watched on this like 20-minute special that is on the Marvel YouTube account, and it's Jon Favreau and Kevin Feige talking about Iron Man 1, and Clark Gregg, the guy that plays Coulson, was Jon Favreau's neighbor.
Oh.
And that's like the reason he got the
he
role.
does such a great job as Coulson.
Yeah, and that's the
He's
whole
huge part.
reason he got the part.
He's such a huge part in the MCU. I mean,
For Phase 1.
from Captain Marvel till now. I mean, crazy.
Yeah. I thought that was super cool because I was like, oh wow,
That is interesting.
that's cool. He's just his neighbor, and Jon Favreau was like, hey, I'm doing this this Iron Man movie. Like, you want to be a part of it? And he's like, sure. And then they figured out Agent Coulson and kind of all that. I think they kind of had the agent who's going to be Agent Coulson, and I think he just fit into that role really well.
Yeah.
But it just one of those things. Like, we get Coulson in the second one, we get Nick Fury. Obviously, we saw Nick Fury in the post-credit scene of the first movie, which started like, it really started like, oh, you got to stay till after the credits with these Marvel movies because there's something always happening.
Mm-hmm.
So, we got Nick Fury, and then obviously, like you said, the Natasha introduction, which I love her in this movie.
I have mixed emotions about her in this movie because I'm a huge fan of Tony and Pepper, and I didn't like the vibe that she was like, I know it's all an act, and now that we know Natasha more, and we gotta, which just as a whole, by the way, I feel like they did her character a disservice in the MCU.
Who?
Natasha.
Oh, like didn't give her enough time.
Yeah, because like I feel like we all kind of disliked her or didn't really care about her until she died, and then Black Widow came out, and then we're like, oh, we actually like her, but it's too late because she's dead.
Yeah.
You know?
I get that.
And I felt that way until Black Widow came out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when she died in Endgame.
Oh, yeah, I cried like a baby.
I cried. And I was like, oh my God, this is the first time I've actually cared about this character.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why is this the first time I've cared about this character?
Yeah.
So I feel like it probably for me started with this movie and the way that she interacted with Tony. Just like super flirty, and I just didn't like that. Because I like his, I'm like, I want him to be with Pepper. Like, don't ruin that. So I feel like that kind of set a bad tone for me with her.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I love whenever she gets introduced and they're boxing. Tony and
See, I don't.
Happy are boxing.
Every time that scene comes up, you just get the biggest kick out of it, and I just do not like that scene.
I don't understand why.
Because of the whole flirty, like
Tony's a
banter.
playboy.
No, I get it.
That's what's funny. And when he's like, I want one, and Pepper's like, no. Like
it's fine. It's not my favorite scene.
That's like one of my favorite scenes of this whole movie.
I know, because every single time you like get a huge kick out of it. I'm like, I don't understand.
Well, when she lays Happy on his ass, it's hilarious. And Tony gets up and he's like, bing, 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 bing. That's a KO. That's hilarious. And I also noticed, like on multiple rewatches, when he's drinking that stuff that helps him.
Chlorophyll.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Yeah, it's
is
chlorophyll.
That chlorophyll?
Yeah.
Oh, I never had noticed that.
Yeah, he has to drink it like literally all day, every day.
Yeah, I know, but I picked up on that in this episode. I'm like, oh wow, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Also, side note, Ashley
the water bottle.
We used to have a water bottle that looked just like the water bottle he drinks at Nasty
the blue and white water bottle that Tony Stark has in this movie.
Yeah,
I had at one point in time.
Yeah,
and I think that's awesome.
Yeah,
so cool.
Yep, because we're like, oh my gosh, it looks like the blue water bottle from.
It literally is the same.
It was, yeah, it was the same.
Can't believe I got rid of it. It must have broken or something.
I think it broke because I had an all black one. Because you were like, oh yeah, this is Iron Man.
It's the little things.
Yeah. Okay, so really quick side note. There's a dude on TikTok, and his Instagram or his TikTok account is called For the Lore, and he literally goes through like Star Wars stuff, and he'll find like, what's that salt and pepper shaker? He'll find like a salt and pepper shaker from the Andor series that looks really cool. Find on Amazon, and then add it to his Amazon like creator account or whatever the hell.
Yeah.
And people go click on it and buy it, and he makes money off of that.
Yeah.
But he does
it's
that
an Amazon storefront.
Yeah.
I have one.
Yeah, I know. But he does that on all these random like.
It's really smart.
Yeah.
Passive income.
Yeah, it's cool. Because he's like, I'm like, shit. He's got me sold on it. Like the little milk containers.
Yes.
That
from Guardians.
From Guardians.
Yes.
He put them on his thing, and I clicked on them. I'm like, oh, look at that.
That was one of the things when we watched Guardians 3. I was like, okay, Disney World. You got a Guardians right now. You got a whole Xandar pavilion. We need the drinks from Guardians 3 at Disney World.
Yeah.
And then the next day you showed me like a picture of those little cartons.
Yep. And then they already have something.
Good. Smart marketing.
Yeah.
Good for
it
them.
Is.
Because I'll be buying it when we go.
Yeah, me too. But anyway, it's so cool because it was like, oh, like there's actually people out there that would go into that kind of detail and be like, hey, if you want this, like today I saw one who's like, you know, the Mon Calamari, the dudes with the big heads like Admiral Akbar, and he's got this like knit sweater and it's super cool looking. He's like, they're back in stock. So I was like, oh shit, I need to buy one just because I need one now. But anyway, back to Iron Man 2. Like speaking of the whole like liquid that he's got to drink, I do like that he's like sick, because it brings you down, like not down, but like, oh crap, like is he gonna like stay alive? Like how's he gonna stay alive and like fix this? Yeah. And then once like Nick Fury like shows himself and Natasha comes like out of undercover kind of, and she shoots him with that like potassium stuff, and he's like, what are you doing, trying to steal a kidney? Yeah. And like he starts to feel better. He's like, yeah, give me a whole case of that and I'll be right as rain. And the whole Howard Stark, I don't know how you feel about the Howard Stark stuff, but I really love that.
Oh, I do too.
There's a lot of people that don't like that at all.
I think he reminds me of Walt Disney.
That's every time I watch this, I think of the same thing because of the expo and all that.
Yes, the expo and the what is that thing? Like
the table?
The table that he creates the atom out of?
Yeah, the expo table. Yeah.
Yes, that reminds me of like classic Disney creating Epcot.
Oh, yeah.
And just like the design, how it's the center is the atom or the nucleus. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
The nucleus. I don't know.
Yeah, I got
Sorry, it's been a long time. But it just reminds me very much of like Walt Disney and him creating Epcot.
Yeah,
And
the
I
guy
love
that
Epcot.
plays him definitely looks like I think it's John Slattery that plays him. But yeah, he definitely puts off a Disney vibe.
Yeah,
Walt Disney
I love
vibe.
it. And maybe that's one of the reasons why I love this movie so much. It's just I'm obsessed with Disney, and
Well,
it hits
I
me in
think
the
at this
feels.
point Disney did own the rights to Marvel Studios, I think. Because they finally were trying to like shoehorn on how this universe was going to progress.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of people had problems with, is they tried to fit too much stuff into this movie with like the SHIELD stuff and the Avengers Initiative and all that, which part of me understands. The other part of me is like, I don't really see that or like feel like that's a bad thing.
They, try it. Okay. Talk about trying to put too much stuff in one movie. The Rise of Skywalker that we just watched.
Mm-hmm.
Holy shit. Bing bong, bing bong, bong. Like, you're literally like, there's like a million things going on.
Yeah.
At the same time. And it's like 85 different storylines.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that and another one that suffers really bad is The Amazing Spider-Man 2 with Electro and the Green Goblin and all those. Where Gwen Stacy dies.
Mm-hmm. It's been a long time because I grew up watching
Raimi.
Yes, Raimi Spider-Mans.
Yeah.
And we loved those. And so and Tobey Maguire, he was my Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
And then when Andrew Garfield took over, I think I watched those movies one time and never again. And then now we have.
See, when I hated the Raimi Spider-Man for the most part,
mm-hmm.
because I was like, he doesn't look like a high schooler.
Yeah.
And I didn't like what's his face that plays him back then when I was a kid. I just thought, like, God, he does not look like Peter Parker.
Well, it's not like we watch it all the time, but we watched it enough to where when the other Spider-Man came out, I was like,
See, I loved Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. I thought it was more fun.
I couldn't tell you anything about it because it's been so long since I've seen them.
Oh, well, they're good. Well, the first one's really good. The second one sucks.
Well, I don't like that she dies. That's stupid.
Yeah. Well, we're getting off track.
Yeah.
Back to Iron Man.
Well, I think the reason we're getting off track is because there's not a ton to say about Iron Man 2. To me, I'm like, I love the movie.
Yeah.
I don't understand like all of the criticism.
I understand the criticism because I get it, but I have fun with the movie. I can see like the pacing is like a little weird with the whole like, oh, he's got to create this atom and like he creates it in like 2 minutes kind of thing. Like figures it out, like the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I get it. He's supposed to be like a super genius and all that. But I think that's part of the issue is like that whole, like how he finds out and how he like sees it. And I was like, oh, that looks like
an Endgame. He creates time travel in 12 seconds.
No, he's been working on time travel for the past like 5 years practically.
When was that ever said?
Because he talks about it when he's doing it. He's like, but in this time, add this particle to it. Mm. He's like, that might take you a bit to figure out. And she like, Friday figures it out like that.
Yeah.
But he's thought about time travel for like longer than that. You got to catch that.
I didn't catch it.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, it may not be 5 years, but it's hinted at that he's been working on time travel a lot longer than that. Sorry. I had a tickle in my throat. Yeah, Iron Man 2 though is a fun movie. It's just fun.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely wouldn't put it in my top 10 or my top 15.
Oof. See, I don't know where anything's going to fall because because
there's so much.
We're rewatching these movies and I'm like, I just love all of them except for Incredible Hulk. which is going to be our next.
Yeah. And every time I'm like, you want to watch Incredible Hulk? She's like, no.
We've by the time we get to watching Incredible Hulk, it's going to be like we've literally rewatched everything else in the MCU. And
Yeah, but that's the thing.
Skipped.
We have to.
We have the like we've already watched Infinity War and Endgame.
Yeah, no, but
again.
we'll have to watch them again. We've just been watching those just to have something on.
Yeah.
Because we're both like.
No one wants to watch Incredible Hulk.
I want to watch
very
it so I
worst
can
one.
feel see how I really feel about it. Because I feel like now I've got more of an understanding of the movie and kind of know the movie, like listening to other podcasts and stuff. So I want to go back in with a fresh set of eyes because I haven't seen it in a long time.
I just feel like it's a waste of time.
I don't think it's a waste of time.
I think that's my biggest hang up is like all of these other MCU films I know are good. And so it sitting down and watching it doesn't feel like a waste of time.
Okay, well, maybe that's what we'll do. We'll just put it in, see how it goes. And if we don't like it, we'll just shut it down.
Okay.
Well, our podcast is about to come to a quick end. We have a guest speaker on the podcast now.
3-year-old Mr. Grayson Matthew just woke up from his nap.
Say hi.
Hi.
Did you have a good nap, Ben? You did?
Cool.
That's awesome.
All right. Well, anyway, we both love Iron Man 1. We both love Iron Man 2. So
Next up on the rewatch is Incredible Hulk,
and Thor.
And Thor.
And then we'll be watching The Avengers. And then we'll talk about Thor and Hulk together, and then we'll probably do Avengers by itself.
Okay.
That's a big monumental movie for the MCU.
Okay.
So,
all right. Thank you guys for listening today. If you enjoyed the show, support us by liking, commenting, subscribing, sharing, whatever on whatever platform you are listening, and we'll talk to you soon.